The Nostalgic Podblast will begin shortly. 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 The Nostalgic Podblast will begin shortly.
Hello. Hey, Wesley. Hey, Wesley. We're about to go live. Fun topic today. Tom will reveal. But it's in the subject line.
The Nostalgic Podblast will begin shortly.
Where the blue of the night meets the gold of the day, someone waits for me.
Yes, it's Bing Crosby and the Kraft Music Hall with John Scott Trotter and his orchestra, Eugenie Baird, the Charioteers, Charles Henderson and chorus, and in Chicago, the Kraft Choral Group.
The Pepsodent Show, starring Bob Hope.
The clouds of Pepsodent make bright for merriment. We'll shine tonight with brighter light. Here's hope, that sunny gent.
Ah, thank you so much. How do you do, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Pepsodent Kid, Bob Hope. Still eating 3 meals a day with your teeth.
Kraft presents the Great Gildersleeve.
Lucky Strike program starring Jack Benny with Barry Livingston, Phil Harris, Rochester, Dennis Day, and yours truly, Don Wilson.
RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, and first in television, presents transcribed the Phil Harris Alice Faye Show. For your enjoyment, here is the Phil Harris Alice Faye Show, written by Ray Singer and Dick Chevrolet, with Elliot Lewis, Walter Tetley, Robert North, Janine Roos, Ann Whitfield, Walter Sharp and his music, yours truly, Bill Foreman, and starring Alice Faye and Phil Harris.
The Johnson Wax Program with Fibber McGee and Molly. The makers...
Around Dodge City, in the territory on West, there's just one way to handle the killers and the spoilers, and that's with a U.S. Marshal and the smell of gun smoke.
Well, hello. Come right in. Oh, George, we've got company.
And now meet the people who live in the Burns house, George and Gracie.
From Hollywood, California, the Lux Radio Theater presents Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Countdown for blast off. X minus 5, minus 4, minus 3, minus 2, X minus 1. Fire.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The Shadow knows.
Hey, fellas.
Yes. What time is it?
It's Pod Blast time. All right.
Well, if you couldn't tell from all those clips, it might have been,
How can you talk with a bitter honey in your mouth?
it's easy. It's real easy. We were talking about old-time radio today, right? Al?
That's right. I love
Right
old-time
chance.
radio.
That's right.
Yeah.
Love it.
At least it's a subject you don't know much about.
This
Well-
is not a snooze topic, believe me. I've listened to the clips in advance, and it's all good stuff. You're going to love it. Very informative, and this is history.
Yeah. It's all good stuff. And we're going to start from the beginning.
Can you give me some volume on my headphones?
Sure. I can give you all you want.
That's a little too loud.
All right.
There
How
you
about
go.
that?
There you
Okay.
go.
So,
Now I can
so
hear
Al,
you.
do you know when radio was actually started and who invented it?
Marconi.
Very good, Marconi. He beat you to the draw.
I was
And
thinking of the guy who invented AM and FM radio.
Oh,
But you knew Marconi invented radio.
Yeah, yes.
It just didn't come to your mind quick enough.
No, what's the guy's name? Forrester. He invented the radio.
we taught Philo.
Foster Brooks, you mean?
Yeah, that's him. But
Not that guy.
Marconi developed it in 1895. That's when it's first developed. Now, when it was actually a viable source, it became later, 1922. William S. Paley, he buys several small stations, which eventually grows into the Columbia Broadcasting System, which
That's
is
right.
CBS, and he was in charge for quite a while. And then in 1926, the Radio Corporation of America, RCA, founded in 1919, by the way.
NBC.
Yeah, established as a national broadcasting company.
And we had the
Wow.
Columbia Broadcasting System.
Which is what I talked about before, right before that. William S. Paley ran that. So, and there was a bunch of other networks, the Mutual Network, there was a lot of independent, just like today. You see a lot of syndicated shows on cable TV and your network, non-network, I should say, because there's so many blasted television channels these days. But there's so many syndicated shows. It's not even funny. Well, guess what? They had them back then too. I mean, The Shadow was a syndicated show. Cisco Kid was another one.
All the old-time radio shows were syndicated.
Well, when I say syndicated, I'm referring to
sent out by the network.
They weren't. Cisco was not sent out by the networks, and neither was.
It wasn't?
No, they were syndicated. They were sold individually to the various television. Or excuse me, keep talking television radio stations.
But there's so many old-time radio shows. You get thousands of them.
Oh, there's thousands of them. Where's my book? Oh, there it is. See, this book, in case you can't see it, and I think you can see it, look how thick the sucker is. This is the Encyclopedia of Old-Time Radio, and it literally lists almost every radio show. We're supposed to list every radio show, and you can just see by the volume of how thick it is, just how many there really was. And some shows better than most. There was a lot of good ones, and there was a lot of clunkers out there. But one of the more popular ones to start off everything was Amos and Andy.
Well, radio shows had categories. You had action and adventure. You had Christmas shows. You had comedy shows. You had detective shows.
Yeah.
You had dramatic episodes. You had, there's all
The
kinds
family
of-
would gather around the radio before television.
Yes, they would.
Not my favorite old-time radio shows were the dramas.
Yeah.
I like some of the comedy shows, okay, but I like X-1, Dimension X.
Yeah.
I always liked stuff like that.
Yeah, X-1 was a good one back then, and had the greatest opening
I love
too.
the opening, yes.
And who was the announcer? Wait a minute. Wait for it.
-4, -3, -2, X -1. Fire.
And he died a few years ago. Listen to him.
From the far horizons of the unknown come tales of new dimensions in time and space. These are stories of the future.
There he is.
Adventures in which you'll live in a million could-be years on 1,000 maybe worlds. The National Broadcasting Company presents...
So that kind of gives him away. He also voiced...
Mine is one.
And he also voiced Saturday Night Live.
Don Pardo.
Yeah, Don Pardo. Now, the cool thing about X-1 is it was such a popular series that it morphed into a different show. Do you know what show that was, Al? They repackaged it as
Dimension X.
Adventures in time and
different announcer.
Yeah.
told in future tense.
I like that guy's voice.
Yeah.
Dimension
Yes.
Yeah, it just makes you want to. It really just makes you just want to turn on the reverb and talk
Well, no, I love those shows.
and talk in reverb like he was talking. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to cut it off. Yeah, we shouldn't do that. Anyway. Oh, I didn't cut it off.
Reminds me of One Step Beyond.
One Step Beyond. Now,
But Don Pardo, he also called. Unfortunately, the John F. Kennedy assassination. He did the radio announcement on television, or rather, television and radio, about that sad day in American history. And our friend Jim Gossett does a spot-on impression of Don Pardo.
yeah, I'm sure he does. I haven't heard that, but
When he auditioned, they said, "You're too good. You sound just like him."
Yeah.
He was turned down a gig because he sounded, according to him,
Yeah.
just like Don Pardo.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Now, in 1920, we talked about briefly the Amos and Andy show, and it played on racism in America, which increased during the Great Depression, and it premieres and becomes the most popular radio show of the 1930s.
And they were white guys.
Freeman Gosling and Charles Correll.
Yeah, they were white. They were,
And I'm not going to play a clip of it because it would offend people. But
Well, I liked Amos and Andy, but it wasn't really one of my favorites. It was okay.
It was.
I preferred, Jack Benny and Burns and Allen as far as comedy goes.
Yeah.
I like those better.
The times they are changing because like you say, Jack Benny had an incredibly long run as well, and
they had the run as long. He had the longest running gig.
Yes, he did.
With Fred Allen.
Yes, he did. And he was very loyal to his listeners as well as his crew and his staff and his on-air talent. You know, Don Wilson.
I love Don
Stayed with
Wilson.
him for a long time, forever actually. And Mary Livingston, who was really his wife, played the character. Her real name was Sadie Marks.
And I like Rochester.
Yeah, Rochester. Yeah. Rochester.
Marx. Why'd you change her name? Relation to Karl Marx? Or?
No. One of the Marx brothers.
Oh, of course, like Harpo Marx.
Yes, exactly. She was like a cousin or something. I forget exactly which. I should.
How long did Benny run?
Benny ran from the 30s up until the late 50s, like 55, 56. But his show transitioned into television.
We had a TV show,
and so did Bob Hope, and a lot of the old Bing Crosby. You know, he had Kraft Music Hall, and a lot of these guys naturally went over into television with no problems.
Well, Bob Hope, I liked him on Command Performance.
Yes,
the Armed Forces radio.
And everyone did. Almost everyone did a Command Performance back then too. It was kind of funny because everybody back then was the servicemen would write in and ask for their favorite performers or their performances, and they always tried to get the most popular request on, and they did a pretty good job.
They were great shows. I had a bunch of those.
They were very good shows. And they usually came on 16-inch, and I meant to grab one. And
I've got a bunch of those at home.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, you've actually got the record player, the turntable.
What is a 16-inch?
A 16-inch record is, as you can imagine, a big freaking record.
It was a transcription. That's how shows used to be distributed.
That's how they'd be archived and distributed.
On big disc. That was they didn't have reel-to-reel tape then. Everything was on a big disc.
And that's why you hear when
scratches,
a lot of scratches and pops and snaps and crackles and pops.
Because a lot of those discs just did not survive.
No, they were meant to be thrown away.
They were meant to be destroyed after they aired them.
Yeah, they were meant to be thrown away. So, and that's why. Now getting back to a timeline, War of the Worlds, which was put on the Mercury Theater,
Orson Welles,
which was the Mutual Broadcasting Network. Again, here we go. In the early days of radio, there was a big three networks. But yet, here comes the Mutual Broadcasting Network, and they're big.
Like Mutual of Omaha?
No, nice try to tie that in, but Orson Welles did obviously a great job at doing a War of the Worlds. And what happened was, they really thought that was really happening at that time, which was kind of
they didn't make an announcement that it was a show. They just came on the air with it.
Yeah, they kind of did, but. Let's play just a little bit of War of the Worlds and let you hear what it kind of sounded like back then.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, nearer home, comes a special bulletin from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object, believed to be a meteorite, fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash in the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene, and we'll have our commentator, Carl Phillips, give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music.
So what they did back then was they did it like they played music and stuff like it was a real live radio show with a band on location like they used to do back then. And they would interrupt it. Yeah, they would interrupt it just like you just heard.
It sounded real.
Oh yeah, and it kept getting worse and worse as time went on. So here's part 2 of some of that. Now into the broadcast, they went into a little bit more stronger detail, shall we say? Okay, that's the way.
Well, in the end, Orson Welles came in and explained what.
Well, he vaguely.
Sort of.
I've got that. They've got that vaguely.
Yeah.
A tub, rather. Well, wait, that wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal, kind of a shield-like affair rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. What? It's standing on legs. Actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Hold on.
It's coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
Ooh.
The battle which took place tonight at Grover Mills has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times. 7,000 men armed with rifles and machine guns pitted against a single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors.
Wow.
The rest strewn over the battle area from Grover's Mill to Plainsboro, crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of the monster, or burned to cinders by its heat ray.
There you go.
I can, just imagine people listening to that back then.
Yeah.
It sounds real. I mean,
yeah, it does. Yeah, it really does.
And there was a panic that ensued, and
yes, there was.
committed suicide.
Well, that's what they say. That's what I absolutely heard. Now here's Orson Welles talking about it toward the end of the broadcast itself. Here he comes.
This is Orson Welles, ladies and gentlemen. Out of character, to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be. The Mercury Theater's own radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush and saying boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates by tomorrow night, so we did the best next thing. We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the CBS. You will be relieved, I hope, to learn that we didn't mean it and that both institutions are still open for business. So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch, and if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian, it's Halloween.
So there you go. That's how they ended the show, with no further explanation.
Orson Welles was he was one of the listeners' favorite voices on the radio.
Yeah.
Because he later went, he did The Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
He did Harry Lime.
Yeah.
And The Third Man. I mean, he was really good.
Him and Joseph Cotton.
Yeah.
They did some amazing stuff. The Third Man, and obviously film too. Citizen Kane, et cetera, it goes on and on.
And he sold wine. He sold no wine before it's time.
And he used that Mercury Theater. That was his company.
Yes, it was.
Even when he went to film.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now a couple of days after the broadcast, obviously, then he found out, what all had happened, and I got a clip of him kind of talking to the press. And I had to edit this together because it was weird. But anyway, here's what Orson had to say like 2 days after the broadcast.
Were you aware of terror at the time you were giving this role? Were you aware that terror was going on throughout the nation?
Oh, no, of course not. We did Dracula, and it seemed to me during Dracula I had high hopes that people would react as they do in a movie of that kind, and I don't know that they did, particularly, and so I've given up. One doesn't believe in the radio audience much. You don't know whether they're listening or not. You have no idea how many people are listening or what they're thinking. I had every hope that the people would be excited as they would be at a melodrama.
I am terribly shocked by the effect it's had. I do not believe that the method is original with me or peculiar to the Mercury Theater's presentation. The date of the broadcast was clearly stated as being 1939. Came, of course, as a great shock to us that the old H.G. Wells fantasy, the classic original for so many adventure stories, romances, and even comic strips, should have so profound an effect upon radio listeners. The invasion by mythical monsters from the planet Mars seemed to us to be clearly in the realm of the fairy tale. Deeply regretful that this is not so.
So there you go. That was Orson talking about it a couple of days after the fact.
They did a parody on Laugh-In, where Orson Welles had guest starred, and they did a funny parody where an actual monster comes out and grabs him while he's in front of the mic doing War of the Worlds. Anyway, there's a clip out there. It was funny. You have to see it. Obviously, it's a visual clip.
That's great. And I don't want to spend too much time on Orson Welles and that particular thing, but that was such sensationalism back then. It's like the Lindbergh baby kidnapping. It was very much sensationalized. Many years later, he backed up and talked about it again. I've got a clip of that, but I don't know if I want to play it. But,
another great action adventure series was Escape.
Escape. That was another good one. That Escape happened. Was that CBS or was that Mutual?
That I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They had westerns on radio too.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But
yeah.
Well, Gunsmoke was one of the longest running westerns.
It was right before television. So during World War II, a lot of people got their entertainment through radio.
They would just listen to the radio.
And the funny thing about Gunsmoke, it was of course the infamously famous William Conrad, the fat guy who played
Jake and the Fat Man.
Matt Dillon, you know. Plus, he was on Cannon on CBS. I think it came on after Mannix. It was a television show. So he became a very popular TV actor.
A Quinn Martin production started in 71.
Yes,
Cannon.
That's right. Cannon.
And what a great voice William Conrad had. And he was a narrator on The Fugitive.
Yes.
Just a great talent.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. He did Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yes, he certainly did. He certainly.
But
certainly
Escape
did.
was a good show too. I got a bunch of those on MP3. But yeah, I like that stuff.
And here's the thing about the aficionados out there. There are some people that are listening, that might be listening to us, that we'll share this video with, that are purists. And the Internet Movie Archive, we can get a lot of these shows for free at the MP3 quality. They don't like that site because it's not as the audio quality is not where it should be.
It's kind of like it adds to the show.
I think it does too. But that's our viewpoint. But to their viewpoint is, if you listen to, was it Spirit?
Did you just burp?
No, I didn't. Spirit, who you used to buy a bunch of stuff from?
Radio Spirit.
Radio Spirits. I knew it was close. They take all the commercial ads out of their.
Oh, I hate that.
Out of their.
But now they're selling them with or without. You can get them with or
because
without.
the fans spoke up.
Yeah, but they clean them up. They clean them up with. There's all this type of encoding and stuff that you can do now.
Some of those old shows, you call them ear benders. You know, they're just not the best quality, but you like to listen to them anyway.
Well, you guys know me. I love the cigarette ads. And I bet there were a ton of great cigarette commercials.
There's a ton of
in the
them.
radio program.
Philip Morris was a big one.
There's a ton of them. There's so many of them out there that's not even funny. For instance,
Ajax was a sponsor.
Yes. And there was so many LSMFT. Lucky Strike means fine tobacco.
That was on Jack Benny.
That was on Benny. Benny used to hawk those. And there's so many others out there.
Philco was a big sponsor of old time radio.
Yes,
they made Philco radios.
Yeah, and then there was Johnny. I've got a clip here somewhere. I don't know where I've put it, but I've got him hawking the cigarettes right before the show starts. So.
Oh, I'd like to hear that if you can find it later.
Yeah, I will. But you mentioned westerns too, and there were so many westerns out there.
Hopalong Cassidy.
Yeah.
You know what the biggest. Gunsmoke, but the one of the biggest westerns on was the Lone Ranger, and the narrator on the Lone Ranger, he had a great voice. His name was Fred Foy.
Fred Foy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he narrated the Lone Ranger. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Meanwhile, Tonto, but he also opened the show up.
What did he look like? Did you ever see a photo of him?
No.
Back then,
because Clayton Moore play him in the TV show?
Clayton Moore played him on the TV show.
Right. So I'm wondering if
I'm talking about the narrator.
I understand. Okay, not playing the title. Gotcha. Sorry.
And there are so many good announcers out there. Don Wilson, Ken Niles, Ken Carpenter, who became Bing Crosby's announcer for the Kraft Music Hall. Gary Owens, of course, he was on later.
Whom Al met in California back in the 70s.
Gary Owens,
he was a disc jockey and voice actor. And Art Gilmore, Ed Hurley, Harlow Wilcox, and he was a big famous radio pitch man. He also narrated the Fibber McGee and Molly show. And, of course, there was Harry Von Zell.
I love Harry Von. He was funny in the movies,
he was in a lot of TV shows during that time period, too.
He was a great character actor. I like him.
Yeah, he was very great. Let's listen to Harry Von Zell.
The Johnson Wax Program with Fibber McGee and Molly. The makers of Johnson's Wax and Johnson's self-polishing Glow Coat present Fibber McGee and Molly, written by Don Quinn, with music by the King's Men and Billy Mills Orchestra. The show opens with There's a Great Day Coming, Mañana.
Mañana is what he said.
Morning in Spanish.
Yes. Yeah, but he was great.
Harry Von he's in some old movies. He's a good character actor.
But he was also on the Burns and Allen show on TV. He was their neighbor as well. So
you know, Burns and Allen was rated as one of the funniest episodes. Was called H&R Blockheads.
H&R Blockheads.
That was.
Hello, come right in. Oh, George, we've got company.
And now meet the people who live in the Burns house, George and Gracie.
Yay, George and Gracie. Yeah.
As we look in at the Burns house today, we find Gracie at the front door being greeted by an old friend.
Good morning, Mrs. Burns.
Now, if you remember that actor,
How are you feeling?
he also did Droopy.
As always, Mrs.
My
Burns,
favorite cartoon character.
Incredibly superb.
MGM.
That sounds like Droopy.
It is. It's the same guy.
Hello, all you happy people.
So, speaking of radio longevity, you know, Jack Benny, like you said, was one of the longest running. It was the longest running show, and his arch nemesis was none other than, I can't believe I said that, none other than Fred Allen, and who had his own show.
Mr. Allen, Mr. Allen.
It isn't one of the old hickory singers, kiddies.
Now, keep in mind,
The makers of Bluebonnet Margarine and Tender Leaf Tea.
Blue Bonnet, you got some Blue Bonnet in your refrigerator.
Yes, Mary Livingston's husband, Portland Hopper, Minerva Pius as Mrs. Nussbaugh, Alan Reed as
The
Falstaff
Markstain.
Openshaw, Parker Fenley as Titus Moody, the DeMarco sisters, and Al Goodman and his orchestra. And until I start tooting the claghorn, my name is Kenny Delmar.
Kenny Delmar. That was a lot of people into a half-hour program. And remember, they did all that stuff, the orchestra, and it was live. It wasn't taped.
Well,
it wasn't a record.
They had a studio
They had
audience.
Yeah, audience. They who dressed up and came to the shows and tie, and it was
With hats,
it was a formal
derby
affair.
hats.
And in the other room, I have a bunch of actual radio tickets from CBS, NBC that you had to give them, that you sent away for, of course, and got for free.
Yeah.
But I've got a bunch of tickets for I got Lux Theater, I got Jack Benny, I've got Fred Allen, I've got Gary Moore's show. I've got a bunch of tickets in there, and they're great to look at because you flip them over.
We got to show them for the camera.
Well, I'd have to go in there and get them, but they're great to look back on and go, wow, they really went to a lot. But that was really before television really taken off. Yes, they had television back in the late 30s. Yes, even at the World's Fair they had television, but it hadn't really reached the mainstream audience until much later.
And it was
till after the
expensive to
war.
buy
It was
TV.
very expensive. And it was black and white. You know, it was very expensive.
And hell, you've got an old radio back there that plays old radio shows.
Yes.
I mean, literally, it's a replica of an old school radio.
He's got them all on
an MP3 player. Yeah, well, that's an actual old radio. That's not a reproduction.
Oh, really?
It's a real
not a
Philco.
I know you're a big Jack Benny fan. You always have been. But, you know, that show was actually voted the best comedy series on radio.
Yeah. And one of the announcer flub-ups, which ended up, they wrote it in the show while the show was going on. Remember, I'm getting ready to explain. I remember Frank Nelson. Yes. Remember that guy? Okay, he's in this show. But he was supposed to have a line that they rewrote in the middle of the show. And you just don't do that because you stick with the script. Now, granted, you're going to flub up and people are going to laugh.
It was
et cetera.
before unions.
Yeah. Well, they had unions.
After,
back then. Yeah. But this was one where Don Wilson kind of flubbed up. Just listen to what he
How
says.
many times are you going to spray your hand with that stuff?
Let's listen to what.
Ladies and gentlemen, 1949 is gone and forgotten. But to Jack Benny, 1950 will always be remembered. Because 1950 is what he paid for his new suit. And here he is, Jack Benny.
Thank you. Hello again. This is Jack Benny talking. And Don, I want to ask you something. How did you know that I bought a new suit?
I heard it on Dreer Poosa.
And that was a flub.
It's Drew Pearson.
Here it is.
You heard it on
in the
what? Wait a
Pearson?
minute, I want to hear this. You heard it on what?
I heard it on Drew Pearson's broadcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, he got the award for being the best announcer in the show. That gives you a rough idea. Dr. Gallup must have given it to you. Now, wait a minute, Don. Drew Pearson is a commentator who specializes in national affairs. Why would he mention that I bought a suit for $19.50?
Because Wall Street feels that it indicates a definite trend toward a bull market.
So, basically, Drew Pearson, okay, he mispronounced that. And that was real. That wasn't scripted. And it was also one of the longest studio audience laughs ever. It clocked in like 19 seconds or something like that. Now, part two of that, in that same show, the writers were going, oh, wow, we weren't expecting this to happen. Let's see if we can, milk it for what it's worth. And in part two, I'm going to play you, it's when Frank Nelson comes, and listen to what he says here.
Okay, man, this is Romanoff's restaurant. That man in that red uniform and gold braid must be the doorman. I'll ask him. Pardon me, are you the doorman?
Well, who do you think I am, Dreer Pooson?
So that...
Yeah, hey, Putin, that's a pretty popular name.
Yeah, it is. And they got a pretty long laugh. Now, what happened during all that?
All right, now stand aside and let me in.
So what happened during that? Benny wasn't expecting it. Benny did not know that he was going to say that. He was supposed to say Nelson Eddy, who was a popular singer back then, which is the way the script read. But Frank Nelson reluctantly let them rewrite it. He didn't really want to do it because he didn't want to upset Jack. But that one line put Jack on the floor. Because, I mean, when Benny would get broken up, he would fall to the floor laughing. And he was on the floor during all that audience laughter, and he pulled himself up by the curtain, to pull himself back up and get back to the microphone. So that's the kind of stuff that they did back then to try to crack each other.
Speaking of, flubs and people that made mistakes, you know what show had the most on-air goofs?
Which one?
Abbott and Costello.
Abbott and Costello.
They had the most flubs of any radio show.
Well, because I would think because Lou would ad-lib so much, probably, and that probably added to it.
I got a question. How do you know what you just described about Jack Benny? Like, is there a video of it? Or
no.
Is it a book you read that a witness described?
Yeah,
it was in the audience?
He made it up.
Yeah, I made it up. No, I read it. I've read it. I've done that much research.
It was an eyewitness
Jack
account,
Benny.
obviously?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. But he would always crack, whenever you crack Benny up, he would always fall to the floor. And he would just lose it. And George Burns used to crack him up all the time. He would say the stupidest things and would just crack Benny up. Now, speaking of laughs, one of the you talk about the longest laugh in radio. There's several things here that talks about who had the longest laugh in radio, and I've got that copy here somewhere. There's the scariest.
And your formerly nicotine-stained fingers.
Yeah, Rush Limbaugh right here. It's right here. There it is. The longest laugh. This didn't have this.
Can I have that bottle?
No, you may not.
You're driving me crazy.
So anyway. Okay. So anyway, Frank Nelson maintained the longest laugh was January 8th, 1950, and that's the Drew Pearson clip I played you. Now, I think the longest laugh was one of Benny's cheap lines that he said, and I'll play that one for you next, which is very, very funny. He'd gone over to his neighbor Ronald Coleman's house and borrowed his Oscar because Rochester wanted to see it. So listen to what Benny says in reference to
his Academy Award.
To a burglar. Yeah, it's pretty good.
Gee, it was awfully nice of Ronnie to let me take his Oscar home so I could show it to Rochester. Sure is dark tonight. No moon. Oh, well. Yada-dee-da-dum, da-dee-da-dum, da-dum, dum-dee-da-da-dum.
Hey, Bud. Bud.
Huh?
You got a match?
Yes. Yes, I have one right here.
Don't make a move. This is a stick-up.
Mister, put down that gun.
Shut up. I said this is a stick-up. Now, come on. Your money or your life. Look, Bud. I said your money or your life. I'm thinking it over.
Because he was so cheap. Now, that wasn't the longest laugh, but I remember thinking that was a good line that somebody wrote. One of the longest.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
That voice sounded familiar. Your money or your life.
Well, Mel Blanc did a lot of voices, but that wasn't Mel Blanc.
Mel Blanc had his own radio show.
Yeah, he did. The Mel Blanc show.
Hiya, Buck.
Yeah.
I liked him on Buck Rogers as Twiggy. Anyway, I digress.
Yeah, he was good. No, he was good. Well, I have a list of things here that was the longest laugh. It was 22 seconds, 23 seconds. I mean, this is somebody who sat there and spent time with a stopwatch and timed them all. And I'm not going to play and bore you with all these, but there was one 35 seconds long, September 16th, 1951. Frank Nelson says he got his suspenders unfastened. And that's what it was. The Drew Pearson, by the way, was 25 seconds in total length, is what, according to the
Do you have any Abbott and Costello?
No, I really don't have any.
Well, so one of the biggest bits that they did was Who's on First.
Yeah, but they didn't originate it. They got the popular.
Well,
for it,
they made it more popular.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. They took it because back then a lot of people.
Yeah, bud, that's right.
Repeated a lot of bits, and you're right. They got the most acclaim to it.
So we're up to 1951. Where does Superman fit into all this?
Well, Superman.
There was a radio.
Once again, it was syndicated. It wasn't a network thing, just like The Shadow wasn't, and there was a bunch of
The Shadow.
There was so many Philo Vance. I mean, there's so many of them that were just syndicated that, again, the radio stations could just buy. You can buy 30 episodes for X amount of dollars. Shadow was brought to you by a coal company, Blue Coal or something like that. And
just like the Nostalgic Podblast is for sale. A package of 33 episodes.
That's right.
Did you see
for
the,
1995?
Did you see the movie The Shadow with Alec Baldwin?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it at the time, but I've tried to go back and watch it. It's not. It doesn't hold up as good as I hoped it might.
I like Darkman. Anyway, we're digressing here.
Darkman was actually very good.
Well, we've talked about all of these guys on the radio, but you know who was one of the most popular female voices on the radio in the show? Eve Arden.
Yeah, yes.
Our Miss Brooks.
Our Miss Brooks.
Yeah.
A good show.
Better known to my generation as the principal in the movie Grease.
Yeah, she was very popular on the radio back in the day.
Yes.
And she played the nurse when Tabitha was born on Bewitched season 2. For what it's worth.
She played what?
The nurse. She was the nurse when Tabitha was born in Bewitched in the black and white season 2 episode.
I did not.
Anyway,
I did not know that.
Yes.
I did not know
Eve
that.
Arden.
I liked her though. I liked her in the movies and I liked her on the radio. Our Miss Brooks.
Great
Who
voice.
she is?
We bring you the new comedy show, Our Miss Brooks, starring Shirley Booth.
Whoops, Shirley Booth.
Hazel.
Let's see.
Where's Eve Arden?
That's what you didn't know. That was the audition. And Shirley Booth.
You didn't say it was
Shirley
the
Booth,
audition.
Shirley
I mentioned
Booth.
Eve Arden, and you played Shirley Booth.
Shirley Booth actually auditioned for, and here's the audition number 2 with Eve Arden.
Starring Eve Arden.
Yes.
But you didn't know Shirley Booth was even in audition for it, did you?
No, I did not.
There you go. I told you something you didn't know. Shirley Booth played Hazel.
We know that.
Our Miss Brooks is a school teacher. She's been teaching English at Madison High for about 5 years now. In spite of the fact that she doesn't make a lot of money, Connie is very fond of her work. In fact, in her own words,
teaching school can be a very rich life for a young woman. That is, if she happens to be a very rich young woman. Of course, I'm not rich, but I am rather young and rather a woman, too. Which brings us to Mr. Boynton. He's the biology teacher at school, and a sweeter, kinder, more intelligent scientist never brushed off an English teacher to play footsie with a frog.
So that was Mrs. Brooks, Eve Arden, who also had a very popular TV show called The Mothers-in-Law with Kay Ballard.
I remember that.
Yeah, that was on. I think it was on NBC. I could
Say it, Al.
What?
I didn't like that.
What?
That's a joke. Weren't you about to
That's
say?
a joke,
I never
son.
cared for that show.
No, I didn't say that.
All right.
No, he's the one that brought the show up. So actually, he's the one that did bring it up.
Well,
so.
another show we didn't talk about that was kind of a dramatic show was Lights Out.
True. True.
Great
Lights
show.
Lights Out was another one of those mystery, because they had a lot of. I don't think they wanted to call them horror genres, but it was in that category that had those type of suspenseful shows. There was suspense. There was, like you said,
Lights
escape.
Out was a great one too.
Which one?
Lights Out.
Weird Circle was another one.
Final thing about Mothers-in-Law, it's been on Antenna TV on occasion. Anyway,
Yeah.
a Diginet free over the air.
The mysterious Traveler was another one. The Haunting Hour, Strange Dr. Weird, Creaking Door. The Creaking Door is what it's called. And again, all of these, some of these were 15-minute shows.
Well,
They
Johnny
weren't a half
Dollar
hour.
was
Almost
a
like a
15-minute.
serial.
Yeah, it
Well,
really was.
Johnny Dollar was a 15-minute show, and it took a week to hear all four shows.
Yeah.
They were Johnny Dollar.
Inner Sanctum. Remember that one? Yeah, Inner Sanctum. There was one called The Black Mass, which I can't believe.
You have a clip from Johnny Dollar?
No, I can certainly get it, but Black Mass.
He was an insurance investigator.
Oh my Lord, an insurance investigator.
Yes.
Yeah.
How intriguing.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yeah, that's the.
That's a great show.
But folks, this is the golden age. I mean, this is when America was pure. It was before the Jerry Springer show and things like that. That kind of ruined and poisoned society a little bit. This, like you said, people wore hats in the audience.
Yeah.
Johnny Dollar.
Yep.
Mr. Dollar, this is Father Taggart. I'm calling you from Ossining.
I like the opening after
starring Bob Bailey.
Oh, yes, sir. What can I do for you, Father? Well, nothing for me, Mr.
Well, I had
Dollar,
an
but
opening
possibly
scene
for
before
someone
the-
else. Michael
It's not
Cairn,
starting.
one of our inmates, asked me to contact you.
Michael Cairn?
Mm-hmm. You remember him? He wasn't sure you would.
Old-time grifter and con man who got tied up with an insurance fraud a few years ago, blonde fella?
Yes. Well, Michael wants to see you, Mr. Dollar. Could you possibly find the time to come up here?
Well, I don't know, Father. Is this something important?
It is to Michael.
Oh, well, look, I'll be in New York sometime next
Hope
month.
it'll be
Maybe I'll get a
coming up right
chance
here.
to stop off.
Well, couldn't you possibly make it sooner?
What's the rush? He's going to be there quite a while, isn't he?
Not very long, I'm afraid. Michael is dying.
Oh.
All right, Father, you can expect me.
There you go.
Welcome to Johnny Dollar. Beginning tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
So, so the internet, the Sirius XM loves to play Johnny Dollar a lot, but again, it was a syndicated show. It wasn't an
Like
ABC
Superman.
generated or NBC or CBS. It was once again
Have you
an
noticed
independent.
that
independent
music
show.
at the beginning sort of sounds like the opening to Perry Mason?
It does.
You know.
But
A
also,
Jack Webb production.
But it also sounded like Sea Hunt, if you think
well,
about
that's
it.
true. That's true.
His voice sounded like Johnny Carson to me too.
Yeah.
They
Well,
all
that's
had
true.
such great
yeah.
voices.
Well,
I
they
love
did.
the voices.
Well, they had to, because and another thing they did back then was they exaggerated some of the detail to the point to where you could imagine what they were talking about. And a good example of that is a Western called Six Shooter. And again, this was a good series. It was a Western. So let's listen to a little bit of that, and you'll hear what I'm talking about. Well, let's listen to the open first, and you'll hear.
My investigation testimony that put him in here.
He told me all about that, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with why he wants to see you.
In a moment, you'll hear James Stewart as the six-shooter here on NBC. Later this evening, listen to the NBC Star Playhouse with one of your favorite stars. Here, Meet the Press, America's #1 newsmaking program. Listen to the news Sunday at home, and be sure to keep tuned for the dramatic story of communism in America on Last Man Out. It's a wonderful lineup of great programs, all of them heard only on NBC.
It made you think that the great lineup of communism programming.
McCarthyism, right?
I don't remember that show.
Yeah, it was on NBC.
The Red Scare.
Now listen to how they open up with the scene, and you can hear all the dramatic descriptions of what they're talking about.
I sure must have been sleeping sound, or I'd have heard them right up. Of course, they're probably being as quiet as they could under the circumstances, but I usually wake up when I'm out in the range and somebody's prowling around my neighborhood. Well, Scar, he heard him. He let me know it. Why, what's the matter, boy? Is there something? It still wasn't dawn, but there was enough light so that I could see the barrel of a .45 and a firm-mouthed fellow standing over me, pointing the gun at my head. Howdy.
What's your name, mister, and what are you doing out here?
Well, I was sleeping. Don't get funny. We want straight answers and we want them quick. Now, you're two of you, huh? At least two. Oh. We're waiting.
Well, we can go on, but as you can see, they were very descriptive a lot of times.
As you can hear. Yeah. We have a Facebook comment I want to acknowledge. Our friend Wesley Millsap says, Antenna TV now watchable in Atlanta on lowcast.org, the Lowcast app, and on the Lowcast Roku channel, which is in Atlanta an affiliate of a sub-channel rather, of WATL 36.
I don't like Antenna TV like I used to. They run just
Well, I don't like that they got rid of the end credits and they'll show the opening to another show and crunch down the credits.
I really watch Antenna TV.
I love incidental music, as you guys know, so that irritates me.
Well, speaking of westerns, how about the Lone Ranger?
Well, the Lone Ranger was
a huge hit on the radio.
Yeah, it was. It was very much so. And it originally, who was the announcer for that again, Al?
Let me look at my notes. I wrote it down.
You wrote it down, but you don't know the guy's name.
Yeah, let's
but
see.
But anyway, it wasn't Clayton Moore, and it wasn't
Fred Foy.
Fred Foy.
Yes.
Fred Foy was his name. Let's listen to a little bit of that.
He opened up the show, then narrated it.
Oh, he did. Yeah.
Fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver, the Lone Ranger.
They really got their money's worth out of the song, didn't they?
That's a great song.
Yeah.
William Tell. It's a William Tell overture.
Yes.
It is.
kind of long.
I love it.
You know, when I moved to television, do you know who the sponsor was?
No.
Marita Bread.
Marita Bread.
Marita.
And where are they at today? They probably
never heard of it.
Marita, it's gone. It's long gone.
Yeah.
It became Wholesome. Wholesome Bread. Remember Wholesome?
Yeah.
But Marita Bread was the sponsor of Lone Ranger on television.
So I'm thinking, because this theme is so darn long, because again it was syndicated, that the sponsor, the local sponsors, commercial money gone in there, because it's still going. You see what I'm saying? It's just a lot of, I would consider, unnecessary airtime. Still going. I think it should hold the record as the longest theme song on radio.
Well, stations dumped out. They didn't play the whole thing.
Well, again, there's sponsorships that they sell, the local stations sell, and that's probably what was going on during
after they had the sponsorship, they just faded it out.
Exactly.
Crest toothpaste.
It's still going.
Well, you can turn it down now.
With his faithful Indian companion
There he is.
Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States. Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver. Let's go, big fellow. I'm Silver.
So there you go. There's the Lone Ranger that out. You said that was the most popular Western
on the radio.
On the radio, yeah.
May I play a G-rated clip of Superman syndicated? Just call on me if you have a thought.
We'll get there later.
Yeah, but wait just a second. We'll get to that in just a second.
Okay, we're on Westerns, yeah.
There was another Western that was every bit as popular, which was
Follow the Plan.
Yeah, which was every bit as popular. And the guy that did the Western had the foresight when he filmed it for television to actually do it in color. Do you know who I'm talking about?
You talking about the Lone Ranger?
No, I'm talking about this.
Cisco Kid?
Yeah. Here's adventure. Here's romance. Here's the famous Robin Hood of the Old West.
Cisco, the sheriff, he is getting closer.
I never cared for it,
This
but
way,
it was popular.
Pancho, vámonos. The Cisco Kid.
Now, the interesting part about Cisco Kid is that announcing and that wording, they kept that for the television show.
Yeah.
So that was what I found that was most interesting about it is that they did that. You know,
I had some of those on 16mm film.
Were they in color or were they in black and
They
white?
were in color.
I bet they look great.
I got a compliment for Tom from one of our listeners, viewers on Facebook. Michael A. Hopkins says the clips are completely clear, as if they were airing for the very first time.
Yeah, they're because a lot of people have used the cedar process.
Well, they cleaned them up.
Yeah, the cedar process cleans them all up. You can sample the loudest noise on a particular track, and then it will process it and take all that out. Now, you may lose some of the highs, you may lose some of the lows, but it cleans it up amazingly. And my a good buddy of ours, Dave Bell, who passed away back in February, unfortunately, God rest his soul, he would take some Bing Crosby shows that I had that were very scratchy, and he showed me what he could do with them, and he took all the noise and mess out. It's incredible, and that's what they're using. If you look at the back of some of the CDs of the old music and the radio shows, it says cedar processing on it. So that's it's a trademarked thing, and
I'm learning from you. I'm
use.
tying into what you said earlier. These were from record albums primarily. That's how they preserve radio and distribute to other stations coast to coast.
Yeah, technically they were vinyl. Yeah.
So where would they originate? West Coast or East Coast? Wouldn't it be New York primarily?
Well, New York and the West Coast actually, because even like the Benny Show and
It
a lot
depends
of
where
them,
the actors lived.
Yeah,
You know.
a lot of them were down on the West Coast, and a lot of them were down on the East Coast, and anything in the middle, forget it.
The flyover states.
Yeah, the flyover states. That's right. Now Al likes W.C. Fields. Now W.C. Fields, he didn't have quote unquote a radio show, but there was, just like Benny and Alan had a radio feud, which let's listen to a little bit of that.
W.C. Fields and
Charlie McCarthy. I'm going to play that for you in just a second. Let me play the Benny feud because I got sidetracked here just a moment ago. Here comes a little bit of the Benny-Allen feud.
That was just a short order of Who Do You Love, I Hope, played by Maestro Al Goodman and his 40 men who...
This is Studio 6A,
Say, wait a minute,
folks.
wait a minute.
This last booth is the control room.
Say, just a minute.
The gentleman who did the voice of Fred Flintstone.
Say, wait a minute. What is this?
This is a Radio City 60-cent tour. Okay, folks, let's get going. Hey, wait a minute. I got a stowaway here.
A stowaway in a tour?
Only 15 people paid. Now I got 16.
Who would be low enough to sneak into a tour to save 60 cents?
There's the guy. Hey, you.
Who, me? Jack Benny. Jack.
Come on,
Jack.
I'm going to get 60 cents out of you.
Take your hand off my spine. Put me down. Yes, guide. Put Mr. Benny down. I'll give you the 60 cents.
Wait a minute, Fred, wait a minute. Put that money away.
But, Jack.
I've only seen half the tour.
Well, Jack.
Give him 30 cents.
Here you are, guide.
Thanks. Follow me, folks. Now, on your right is a water cooler.
Well, Fred, it was nice of you to pay that 30 cents.
Oh, it was nothing.
Nothing, he says. 30 cents.
Jack, how can you be so cheap?
All right, go ahead. Be like the other radio comedians. Tell some cheap jokes. Say I'm tighter than the skin on Sidney Greenstreet's hip. Squeeze a nickel so hard the E pluribus laps over the unum. Tell him.
Well, Jack, I didn't...
Oh, start insulting me after I made a special trip up here just to say goodbye before I leave for Hollywood.
Well, Jack,
All of a sudden, I'm cheap. I won't even eat in the sun. My shadow might ask me for a bite.
Your shadow has teeth? Jack, now look. Jack, don't get excited. Look, if you're cheap, you're cheap.
That's the way I look at it. Some people save asparagus ends. It's a hobby. My hobby is not spending.
Well, Jack, if there ever was a time that you and I should not argue, this is the time.
What do you mean this is the time?
Well, haven't you heard? A lot of the radio programs that have been on for many years have been canceled. They'll not be back on the air next fall.
Well, that's radio, Fred. It's dog eat dog. I always say only the fit survive.
Oh, how true. By the way, you finished tonight, didn't you?
Yes, sirree. Tonight was my last show of the season.
Did your sponsor mention anything about your program coming back in October?
Well, no, Fred, but we have a mutual understanding. You see, we always sort of take it for granted. Oh. The season ends, the sponsor shakes hands with me, and then we, yike!
So that didn't show too much of the feud, but they were sparring back and forth with her.
What a Flynn skint, though. You know, I got a synonym for cheap. Al Hardy.
There you go.
Just
Al cheap.
No, but you mentioned the voice of Fred Flintstone. You're talking about Alan Reed?
Yes, that was Alan Reed as the tour guide.
And he was the voice of Fred Flintstone from 1960 to 1977, but in the pilot, it was Dawes Butler.
Right, correct. And if you go back and listen to that pilot, it doesn't sound the same.
And today, it's Jeff Bergman from the year 2000 to present. Anyway.
Right. Not that they're doing that much Flintstone stuff.
Are they on Cartoon Network or no? New Flintstones?
No, well,
they're on BTV.
Probably direct to video.
Well, that's the old
or
ones.
streaming.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, W.C. Fields, as we were saying, him and Charlie McCarthy always had a repartee between each other.
He always threatened to make toothpicks out of it.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen to this one. You'll hear some of that jib-jab.
Are you eating a tomato, or is that your nose?
Very good, Charles. You must come down with me after the show to the lumberyard and ride piggyback on the buzzsaws.
Nobody's going to find me after the show.
Yes, they are. You'll be hanging in my window as a Venetian blind.
That makes me shudder.
Quiet, or I'll throw a woodpecker on you. You know, I've always been very fond of our feathered friend. Yes. Large, small, came a while.
Blonde or brunette? Bill, you have quite a collection, haven't you?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have, and I always have a very rare Australian duck-billed platypus.
How small is this bird? Do you have to have glasses to see it?
Yes, about 3 or 4.
So W.C. Fields was a guest star on a lot of radio shows back then. He didn't really have his own radio show, but he did amazing.
Chance, you know who Edgar Bergen had a famous daughter. You know who she is?
No. Ingrid Bergman? No.
Okay. Candace Bergman.
Candace.
Yeah,
that's his daughter.
From Boston.
Legal.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And she had her own show on CBS.
Murphy Brown.
Murphy Brown, thank you. And she couldn't stand Charlie McCarthy.
She was an attractive lady. I liked her when she was on Saturday Night Live, making a guest shot.
Yeah, but she couldn't stand Charlie McCarthy because
she was actually in a Western movie I liked. It came out in the 70s called Soldier Blue.
Ah.
Yeah.
And she felt that Charlie McCarthy was upstaging her in a personal life, and she just didn't like that. Now I guess I can understand
Whatever
that being
happened.
a kid.
Is he in a museum now?
Yes, he's in
like
Smithsonian. Smithsonian has one, and there's a not a marionette. Pardon me. There was a ventriloquist dummy museum. I forget where they're located, but they supposedly have. I think he had three or four. But the main one that he used all the time was in the Smithsonian, and they don't display them all the time. I've seen him.
Wasn't he? He was probably the most famous.
He was. He wasn't the best ventriloquist in the world. Radio was his friend.
Well, no, you could see his mouth moving.
Oh yeah, you could see it moving along. Well, especially when he got older, you could really see it moving.
Hey, Vent Haven Museum, the world's only museum for ventriloquists.
That's it. Very good.
Where's it located?
It's in Kentucky.
Wow. It's weird that it's in Kentucky.
33 West Maple Avenue.
I wonder what's in Kentucky.
Fort Mitchell, Kentucky.
Well, let's face it. There's not that ventriloquism isn't exactly the most popular thing in the world.
But hey, the guys that have been on America's Got Talent have become mega famous, mega rich, with Vegas acts.
Yes, they have.
Remember
pre-COVID.
Remember the funny one, Madam?
Yeah.
Wayland Flowers.
and Madam.
Yeah.
I liked Lamb Chop. Sherry Lewis.
Well, Sherry Lewis, yeah.
That wasn't really. That was a hand puppet.
It was a hand puppet, but she was a ventriloquist as well.
Yeah.
The sad part about her is not only did she die young with cancer, but she also all of her shows were lost because they recycled the videotapes.
Like
that's not the first time It's not the first time I've ever heard that one. Johnny Carson had the same problem.
Yes.
Because
1962 to 71.
Yeah. because videotape was so expensive, and they did not see the use of it replaying, and idiots.
That's where kinescopes come in. But we're digressing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've even got a Lawrence Welch show that Al and I watched a couple of weeks ago from 1964. Has all the original commercials in it, and the only reason it exists because, once again, it was a kinescope. Yeah. And some of the shows, because I'll use Lawrence Welch as an example. He owned the show, just like Ozzie Nelson owned Ozzie and Harriet.
Which they were on the radio.
Yes, they were on the radio. They started on the radio, and you can hear an even younger Ricky Nelson and David Nelson on that show, and it's pretty crazy, I think, to hear them even younger than they were back then. Now, another show back then that started on radio and ended up on TV was this one right here.
Mother, is Maxwell House the best coffee in the whole world?
Well, your father says so, and your father knows best.
Yes, it's Father Knows Best, transcribed in Hollywood, starring Robert Young as father. A half-hour visit with your neighbors, the Andersons. Brought to you by Maxwell House, the coffee that's bought and enjoyed by more people than any other brand of coffee at any price. Maxwell House, always good to the last drop.
I've got that book.
Always good to the last drop.
I like Maxwell. I still use Maxwell House.
And the funny thing about it was the only original. Jane Wyman wasn't part of the cast or anything.
Jane Wyman is the mother, and she went on a couple years later to play Spock's mom in Star Trek, a classic show, and in the movies.
Yeah, and wasn't she married to Ronald Reagan?
Yes, she was before Nancy Reagan. Very much.
And Michael Reagan, their son, is the
adopted son. Yeah. Not that it matters. I'm just a factoid.
Yeah, and then they had, of course, Nancy Reagan had Ronald Reagan Jr. Between the two of them. But
what about Patty, who had posed in Playboy and stuff? Patty Reagan?
I don't know about her.
Anyway.
Yeah. But
Ron Jr. you mentioned.
But anyway, Ron was a great guy. He is a great guy. Anyway. So anyway, then there was Al. Do you remember Lux Radio Theater?
I do.
Lux,
they were dramas.
Yeah. Now here's an odd one that I found earlier today, and which I had not heard. Now this was before. I believe this is before Cecil B. DeMille took over.
Well, I think he was one of the originators of it.
I thought so too. But listen to this.
Hollywood, California, the Lux Radio Theater presents Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Same theme.
Lux presents Hollywood. It's one of the most beloved folk tales of all time, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Walt Disney made it into one of the greatest pictures of all time. And tonight, for young and old, we bring it to the Lux Radio Theater. A charming story, the delightful music that you saw and heard on the screen. Aiding in tonight's production, and our guest of honor, is Walt Disney himself. Conducting our music is Louis Silvers. Mr. DeMille will step before the curtain in just a moment. But
So there you go. So that's Mr.
the
DeMille.
product that brings you this program. Lux.
But there was another character. See, it started in 1934 on the Blue Network. See, back then they had different colors.
They had the Red Network, the Blue Network. Yes. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. What if they had the Gray Network? I'm not just kidding.
First I heard of that. The color coding.
Yeah. And the Lever Brothers for Lux Soap, and then 1935 it was on CBS, and it was on Mondays at 9 o'clock from New York, and then so it goes on and gives all the dates, but it goes on. Basically, what they did was they redid all the movies of back then. They did a radio dramatization of the movies, and they have It's a Wonderful Life was one of them with again original actors Jimmy Stewart, Donna Reed, and
Humphrey Bogart was in radio dramas.
All of them.
All of them were.
All of them were.
And they were radio dramas based on their movies.
True.
And so
and because here's what you got to remember. Even the actors back then, they had to work even between their movies. There was nothing going on, so they had to do something. So that's what they did. A lot of them did radio. You would even hear Humphrey Bogart on the Jack Benny Show.
Well, you know who had a big radio presence back in the day was Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, and a lot of his shows were based on his movies. And one of my favorite was Lifeboat.
Yes.
The radio show Lifeboat, based on the movie, is a great show. But
Now that movie was kind of a bummer, I thought, personally. But
yeah,
that's just-
Marlene Dietrich was in it. I've always liked
Yeah,
her.
yeah. No, but did she reprise that role for the radio though?
Yes, she did. She did. She did the
Oh
radio
wow!
show.
So I didn't realize that. But
You know, and speaking of Alfred Hitchcock in his movies, he always appeared in his movies somewhere.
Oh,
Always.
classic cameo.
Yeah,
Like Rod
Well,
Serling.
Do
in
you know
Twilight Zone.
in Lifeboat, the whole movie takes place in a lifeboat? Do
Yeah,
you know where
yeah.
he appeared in that?
No, where?
Well, one of the guys on the boat, it was what's his name, Tyrone Power. He was reading a newspaper, and there was a picture of Alfred Hitchcock in the newspaper. Apparently, it was a fake article. It was in the paper.
That's cool.
Yeah.
that's very cool.
Did Rod Serling have a presence in the radio?
Yes, I'm going to go
Okay,
to that.
all right.
I'm going to go to that in a minute.
Director's Playhouse. Stars, Tallulah Bankhead.
There you
Jeff
go.
Chandler. Production, Lifeboat. Director, Alfred Hitchcock. This is the Screen Directors Playhouse, the Thursday night feature on NBC's 5-show festival of comedy, music, mystery, and drama. Brought to you 5 nights a week by the makers of Anacin for fast relief from pain of headache, neuritis, and neuralgia, and by RCA Victor, world leader in radio, first in recorded music, first in television. Ladies and gentlemen, once again we are pleased to salute the Hollywood Screen Directors and to present for the first time on the air an hour-long radio performance of Lifeboat. May I now introduce tonight's guest director, the creator of such remarkable films as Shadow of a Doubt, Spellbound, Rebecca, and, of course, Lifeboat.
It's him.
Mr. Alfred Hitchcock.
Thank you. But I think you should know that Lifeboat is not what we call a director's picture. There are no trick sets, no camera tricks, in fact, no tricks at all.
The whole
When the
thing
director
takes place
approaches
on the
the
boat.
picture,
Now that was canned applause if I ever heard it.
and delivers himself wholly into the hands of his actors. Since they are very good actors, the result is just as you shall hear it now, as we present Lifeboat, starring Tallulah Bankhead in her original role of Connie, and Jeff Chandler as Kovac.
So there you go. I mean, so
I got to correct myself. I said Marlene Dietrich is Tallulah Bankhead.
yes,
That's okay.
That's okay.
Have your drum already. Wasn't that the voice of Droopy?
No.
No.
Oh, I'm just kidding. He sounds to me like the guy who voiced Droopy.
No, we just talked.
Okay, my joke just fell totally
You thought
flat.
We just talked about that.
I know it's. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I think Alfred Hitchcock sounds like Droopy, but
if you ever
Well, he
watch
does.
the
He-
movie,
Well,
if you ever watch the movie Lifeboat, you never want to get in a lifeboat. But it's
No, you don't.
It's very well written. I mean, it's great dialogue because they just talk the whole time. The movie and the boat. It's just really good.
But it's still a kind of a.
I won't tell you if they get rescued.
Yeah, but it's still one of those movies where if you're down, don't watch it. It's not an uplifting movie.
Well, think about it is
You
when
know.
I'm down, I like to see a downer movie. It makes me feel better.
Now, Al, I have a question
Wow,
for you.
okay.
You're a fan, self-admitted fan of soap operas of the past.
Yeah.
Radio had the first soap operas, did they not? I'm making an
Oh yeah.
assumption
Well, basically,
here.
yeah,
Yeah, they
they
did.
were.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they
like
did.
Another World, Days of Our Lives, which started in '65 on NBC.
Yeah.
Was that ever on radio?
Well, the
Or-
first big TV soap opera was Edge of Night on CBS.
Now, that sounds like it was a radio show.
It was a 15-minute show on television before it went to 30 minutes.
Oh, was it real? See, I didn't know.
But was it ever on radio? It sounds like a radio title
Edge
to
of
me.
Night. I'm not sure.
Well, I can just.
I know
simply
Guiding
do a search.
Light was one. It was on NBC, and why wasn't it playing? I don't know why it's not playing. There you go.
Guiding Light.
Lots new dust in your washing machine. Finest dust you've ever seen.
Go back.
So that was that's how it starts. There's little faux pas there. There you go. Sorry.
Put new Does in your washing machine. Finest Does you've ever seen. Bigger news now when you sing. D-U-Z does everything.
The new Does brings you The Guiding Light, created by Erna Phillips.
And of course, they always had the organ. They always had the organ.
I love it.
His budget.
Shows used the same organ player.
Yeah, really.
Probably made a lot of money. Probably made a lot of money back in those days, right?
No more questions.
They probably did.
Reminds me of the Fox Theater here in Atlanta. The Mo, the Mighty Mo.
Yeah.
Darling, you're a little excited. I want you to calm down a bit. I don't know what time your father will be home, but I rather imagine it'll be early.
Well, that's good. I'm glad he'll be home early. I don't really care. But, yeah, they used a lot of, whenever you heard the keyboard, like the Shadow used the keyboard, and some of the more inexpensive shows, shall we say, they would always do that. Marlowe was another one. Let's see.
From the pen of Raymond Chandler, outstanding author of crime fiction, comes his most famous character in The Adventures of Philip Marlowe.
Oh, yeah. Detective drama. Private Eye. How about Dick Tracy? Was that a radio show? I'm just asking. I don't know.
I think it was for the kids. More for the kids.
So they could sell those watches.
Did you ever see
watch?
the Dick Tracy movie?
Yeah, it was okay.
It was weird.
But it was done very cartoonish, like the colors.
Oh, the people were human, but they were done like they look like cartoons.
They look like Chester Gould's.
Well, actually, they look like
paintings,
comic strip characters. Yeah.
Now, another show that you talked about Superman, but there was another one that came before that. It was this one.
Green Hornet.
Which was a TV show.
Yes.
Listen.
He hunts the biggest of all game, public enemies that even the G-men cannot reach. The Green Hornet.
Flight of the Bumblebee.
Hello, Michael Hopkins. Now, again, I don't know that they can. I didn't bring in that much of that clip because I just didn't want to talk too much about it. But the fact that remains is there was Superman, there was Green Hornet. I don't think Batman was ever an actual radio show.
Point to me when I can talk Superman. I'll be brief about the radio show I have.
Go ahead.
I was looking up Flight of the Bumblebee, but okay, who orchestrated that because I can't remember off the top of my head. But Superman. All right, The Adventures of Superman was a long-running radio serial that originally aired from 1940 to 1951. And you're right, it was syndicated from New York City's WOR. And then it went to Mutual in 1942 to 1949.
Which was a network.
That's right. That Tom referenced at the very beginning of the show. And it starred Bud Collyer.
Yes.
Joan Alexander, I guess, was Lois. And the announcer was Jackson Beck. And I have a quick clip of the very first...
do too.
Oh, okay. Well,
was
go
Bud
ahead.
Collyer the game show host?
Bud Collyer was a game show host as well. Yes, he was. He really was. So, which is very good for him.
Blank Corporation presents a brand new radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets. Up in the sky, folks!
It's a giant bird.
It's an airplane. It's Superman!
I love it. And that's before the Kirk Allen movie serials. And a serial, I'm not talking about breakfast here. These were chapters released in movie theaters before the main feature. And they'd always have a cliffhanger ending. But this was the first incarnation of Superman besides the cartoons by Max Fleischer. So...
Now,
that's all I had.
No. But this is 2016. No, let's listen to a little bit more. I want to hear Bud Collyer.
Here's the marvel extraordinary who has sworn to devote his existence on Earth to helping those in need. But before we bring you the almost unbelievable story of how Superman arrived on Earth, a message from the Blank Corporation, makers of Blanco. That extra-rich, full-flavored breakfast food with a new taste thrill.
Blanco.
Never heard of it.
They'll leave you feeling blanco.
What in the hell is Blanco?
Well, obviously this record didn't have.
Now for the story of Superman. As it begins, we ask you to come with us on a far journey. A journey that takes us millions of miles from Earth, where the planet Krypton burns like a green star in the endless heavens. Here civilization is far advanced. It has brought forth a race of supermen, men and women like ourselves, but at
Well, anyway, we'd have to listen to the whole episode to hear Bud Collyer. But anyway, back then when Bud Collyer was coming along, he did this, but he also, if I'm not mistaken, he did the one for the cartoon, the Max Fleischer cartoons too. Did he not?
I'll have to look that one up.
I think he was a voice for the cartoon as well.
Those were strange cartoons.
They were strange cartoons.
They were great animation, though.
But they're, Max Fleischer.
color.
Yeah, Max Fleischer did them. He did them
I
in
had a
Technicolor.
couple of them in my day of collecting film, but they were, and they were in color.
Yeah, they were very realistic looking cartoons.
Yeah, they were.
And they weren't done campy or anything like that at all, which was really great for Credo to Superman.
Well, before we end the show, I mean, there were there was thousands and thousands of radio shows.
Thousands,
You
yes.
know, you really can't cover them all.
No.
But there were radio shows back in the day that were not very good.
Oh, there was some bad ones.
And one of the bad ones is Baby Snooks.
Yeah.
That was a terrible
Yeah,
show.
yeah. There was
Little Abner was not very good.
No. You're right. There was
Boston Blackie was not very good.
There's some stinkers out there.
Yeah.
Boston Blackie, Lum and Abner, Word Circle.
Yeah.
They weren't very good.
Show called Night Beat. I don't remember that one.
Yeah. There was one called Dangerous Assignment with Brian Dunleavy. Not very good. The Man Called X. Not very good.
They were just really.
So I mean, and just as there was tons and thousands of radio shows, there was a lot of stinkers out there. There really was.
Well, if people really like old radio shows, there's a government website you can go to, and they're absolutely free. It's archive.org.
Yeah, you're right.
And just go to audio, and then go to old time radio shows, and they've got anything
Tons.
you ever want to listen to up there.
I got to mention the one that was my mom's favorite.
What's that?
Bob and Ray.
Bob and
I
Ray.
did care for Bob and Ray. They were okay. They weren't one of my favorites, but I could listen to them.
I didn't ask your opinion, sir.
Well,
but
let's
that's okay.
I gave it to you.
Well, let's
anyway.
let's listen to a little bit of Bob and Ray. While we actually, what I need to do first is kill the Superman clip because it's still playing. It's still playing in the background, and I forgot to hit stop on it. My mistake. So Bob and Ray were a team of guys who came out in the 40s. I think 47 is when they first appeared. But they lasted up until the 70s, because I remember seeing them on David Letterman, for instance. So
Well, because Chris Elliott, Bob's son, was one of the head writers on the Late Night with David Letterman show.
Yeah, he was.
And please go on with your clip.
Yeah,
I'll shut up.
you're absolutely right. Here's little Bob and Ray. Back in the 40s.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome once again to our own little program that we call Matinee with Bob and Ray. It's a real pleasure to be broadcasting again from our summer home here in Friendly Valley. I'm very pleased to be back with you all in real life today. That's so? Yesterday, I greeted you, of course, from a disc. And I certainly missed chatting.
Did you listen to the program yesterday?
Oh.
Sounded vaguely familiar to me. It sounded just like you two fellows were talking same thing what you did Saturday.
Probably was.
Several people have called me to ask if that was true.
I believe it was Steve O'Neill after yesterday's game who summed it all up nicely when he said, "Bum."
Well, we got next year to think about it,
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, that's one
Okay,
game.
we come all the way down to New York and you beat us. That's a nice one.
One game isn't the whole season. We've got a long time to go.
Your father's must.
But here to tell us more about the baseball picture by special telephonic communication is Steve O'Neill, Steve Bosco, who is the man that we sent south. You may remember. Hello, Steve.
Steve Bosco reporting.
You called us this morning and had rather an unusual
So
conversation.
basically, they commented on current events and stuff like that. It looks like, and they did some joking around and stuff like that. So it wasn't, hey, they lasted a long time. Whether you like them or not. I didn't listen to them, but that's okay. That's okay. I can certainly
I
respect.
put them in the vein of the Smothers Brothers, and they were kind of like, they could be okay. I mean,
I love Chris Elliott though on Get a Life, which is an early Fox sitcom that my generation loved, and now he's on Schitt's Creek,
which is not spelled.
No, not like the dirty word.
Is that on Netflix? Is it on Netflix?
Yes.
Yeah. And then there were the commercials.
Oh, there's some great commercials.
There were some classic commercials out there. Alka-Seltzer, Coke, and even the cigarette ads. Let's listen to.
Remember Coke?
Let's listen to a few of the commercials from back in that time period.
The Signal Oil Program, The Whistler. That whistle is your signal for the Signal Oil Program, The Whistler.
I heard that today coming over here on Radio Classics on Sirius.
Oh, did you really?
Playing the Whistler.
Yeah.
And Judy mentioned that Chris Elliott's on Schitt's Creek, and a lot of SCTV alumni like Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy are on that program, whom we discussed in Podblast 13 with special guest Jim Gossett, SCTV versus Saturday Night Live.
True.
If you want to see that, by the way, we're now on another radio outlet. Aside from fistfulofradio.com, we are on
Radio Tucker.
Tucker. Well, it's on the schedule currently. Going to be moved Saturday nights at 11 in the evening, but they're going to move it around to during the week.
And they're on TuneIn and a bunch of other.
TuneIn, and we have a YouTube channel now, and we have a new website that you're designing.
nostalgicpodblast.com. There's not a lot on it right now, but it's coming. So I just started it the other day. So anyway, getting back to commercials, I only had that one commercial, that one clip, but Signal Oil, once again, it was a regional service.
Wasn't Texaco one of the sponsors? I know they sponsored Benny on TV, but I'm not sure about radio.
No, Texaco, I don't remember hearing too much Texaco on radio because Texaco didn't come into vogue until the 70s, and radio had already gone by the wayside.
The brushless shaving cream supreme leaves your face so smooth and clean. CRESTA, BLANCA, Cresta, Blanca, Cresta Blanca.
Rinse so white and rinse so bright.
L-A-V-A, L-A-V-A.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Someone once said that the world stands aside to make way for the man who knows where he's going. And so tonight it gives me great pleasure to make way for a man who knows what he's talking about. Harry Von Zell.
Don't ever neglect the cold. At the very first sign of a cold, get after it immediately with the faster help of sparkling.
I know.
Fred Allen, remember?
No. The name of the... I'm sorry, that eagle has upset me. I can't remember the name of what it is that helps fight cold faster. It slips my mind.
Well, it'll come to you. Go ahead, Harry.
Well, yes, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, this famous product acts very quickly, yet it's exceptionally gentle. And since the progress of a cold is very fast, the greater speed of what it is I'm talking about is especially important in fighting your cold. And that's not all. This, the name will come to me in a minute. It also helps nature counteract the acidity that so often accompanies a cold. And ladies,
I can't believe the sponsor went with that.
You'd better check the name, too, ladies and gentlemen.
Fred, you know what I'm talking about.
Why, certainly, Harry. You're talking about America's outstanding saline laxative.
That's it, Fred. And the name is...
The name is, so many physicians recommend it.
Yes, and it helps fight colds faster. But what is the name?
Well, here's a pretty to-do. Wait, Harry. There must be somebody around here who knows. If there is, will you please tell us confidentially?
That's it, Sal Hepatica. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
I bet you can't find it anymore.
Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Winston gives you real flavor, full of rich tobacco flavors. Winston's easy drawing too. The filter lets the flavor through. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
Long commercial.
Winston tastes good like a cigarette should. Winston tastes good like a cigarette should.
Catchy.
Like
emphysema.
Cream of Charlie. It keeps your hair in trim.
So some of the commercials you recognize, and there's so many more that are classic. And they would, a lot of times the radio shows would put them in with the actual show, made it part of the show.
Another big sponsor back then was Roma Wine.
Roma Wine.
Roma Wine.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. I neither.
It's gone, but it was
well,
Roma
of course.
Wine.
Yeah. I knew it was gone, but I just didn't know how gone it was.
Yeah.
Give me a minute to talk about the last radio show, actually the first and last radio show I listened to. Just point to me when I can have time.
Yeah, Roma Wine was, they sponsored yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay,
Chance.
back when I was a wee little one, the Star Wars craze was big, and there was an Empire Strikes Back radio show.
Oh, yeah.
Mark Hamill actually reprised the role of Luke Skywalker for it, as did Anthony Daniels. Billy D. Williams was on it, but you had Perry King as Han Solo, who sounded nothing like Harrison Ford. Ann Sachs was Princess Leia Organa, and Bernard Behrens was Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I have a quick clip. Oh, and Brock Peters as Darth Vader. John Lithgow was Yoda.
Really?
He's a great actor.
John Lithgow.
Lithgow's a great actor.
So,
I like
and they
him.
released these on cassette tape, and I listened to them live on radio. It was on PBS. Here's a quick clip.
All right, let's listen.
Renegade Leader, this is Renegade 7. Boss, I have a visual sighting, a number of small spacecraft coming at high velocity from Sector 4.
Can you identify them?
They're moving awfully fast. Imperial TIE fighters, must be 20 of them.
Renegade Flight, this is Renegade Leader. Prepare to engage the TIE fighters. Transport ships going to hyperdrive as soon as
This
you're
is
clear.
Renegade 3, boss. There's another bunch of them dead ahead on our course. They're breaking for attack. This is Renegade 2, more TIEs approaching from Sector 8.
All right, so there you go.
Oh,
so what? So tell us about. And that was on NPR, right?
it was on public radio.
Yeah.
Yep. And I loved it every week, even though Han Solo sounded nothing like the Han Solo.
Of course not.
Now,
How much
do we
time
have
do
a
we have
Corona
left?
update?
Well, wait. Before we do that, we got about 3 minutes.
Okay.
You had mentioned earlier Rod Serling.
Yes.
And he
Thanks
had,
for reminding me.
And he had an entry in the radio world, but it wasn't really his show. They just hired him as kind,
the
of,
announcer.
as kind of a pitch man, and it really wasn't all that good. It came out in the 70s, so let's listen to just a little bit of that. And you can tell, you can just tell by the way he's saying it, it's not really his. At least that's what I think. It's coming. The show is called 0 Hour.
Where's Rod?
I'm Rod Serling. You're listening to the 0 Hour. Rest your eyes. Exercise your imagination. This week, Patricia Power's eerie saga of a neighborhood besieged. Face of the foe. Starring Jessica Walter, Joseph Campanella, and Judy Carr. kind.
So,
wow, what a cast!
yeah,
Jessica Walter from Arrested Development.
Yeah, but they weren't thinking of shows. They really weren't.
And it says it's also known as Hollywood Radio Theater from 1973 to 74.
Yeah. So.
And now the Nostalgic Podblast takes a look at the coronavirus.
Can I say something about Corona?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to say hats
here it
off.
is.
No. It's good. I want to say hats off to the Georgia governor.
Oh yeah,
Kemp, for doing the right thing. You know, he is, you know, I just like his decisions. I don't care for the Atlanta mayor.
Yeah, well.
But I really appreciate what Kemp is doing for the state as far as Corona, and actually, you know, the infections are down. I you know, and we'll get through this.
Yeah,
I like Kemp.
We'll get through this together. We're all in
That's right.
That's right.
That's the
We'll all get through
catchphrase.
this together.
Yeah.
We don't like to get political here, but you made a statement, and that's fine. And I think,
Well, I mean, you know, this
well,
is
we want to
the-
do a quick roundtable. One more thing. Do you have the one more?
I don't have one more thing this week.
That's your one more thing. Okay,
That's my one more thing.
I'll be real quick.
It's my Corona and one more thing together. How
We
about
got a little
that?
piece of music I like.
Well, we could certainly.
All right, this T-shirt I'm wearing for the Facebook and YouTube viewers says Team Bing Bong. I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Mark M.A.R.C. Walker, cruise director. He's been with Royal Caribbean since 1996, and he's basically furloughed. And if you go to his Facebook page, he's looking for help finding a job. He's in the Orlando, Florida area, and he is humble. He will do anything. He'll work at Publix. Right now he's doing DoorDash. And I just want to help him because on the cruises I was on Enchantment of the Sea and Majesty of the Sea, he was our cruise director. And he's just a great guy. He's from England. And he's going to have to sell his house come January and move back to England if something doesn't pick up for him. So prayers to him. He sells these T-shirts for $20.
You're showing it to
Team
Al.
Bing
You
Bong.
should
That's
show
part
it
of
to
his
the
shtick.
camera over there.
That's
I
part
don't-
of his shtick. He goes, Bing Bong, when he
I don't
makes
think
an
people will
announcement.
be taking cruises anytime soon.
Well, I
No.
hope they do, but there's
It's
going to have to
just-
be some precautions. You know, I mean, whether it's buffets.
It's just like movie theaters. I mean, people will go back, but they're going to go back in small numbers.
But there's been outbreaks for years because people don't wash their hands. As
That's
long
true.
as you wash your hands, like whenever I do a buffet, before I eat, I'll go to the restroom and wash my hands thoroughly, and then I'll eat because you've been touching.
And then you spray your hands with alcohol about 20 times an hour.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the Corona.
That's true.
All right, so that's great. So today's show again, we barely touched. Believe me, look at the book. I mean, the book is.
Hold it up.
I forget how many pages it is. It's like 800 pages. It's 775 pages, not including the apex at the end.
And we have a Facebook comment too. But continue.
And we couldn't possibly. All we did was cover the ones that we wanted to cover. I wanted to cover, and Al wanted to cover.
Yeah.
And there's many more, and maybe later on we can do another old time radio broadcast maybe later on in the year, and we'll talk about the shows we didn't really talk about because there's a lot of obscure ones out there and shows that I never knew existed because they're just not readily available.
You're right about revisiting. There's so many times we forget things. Like I want to revisit game shows maybe next week because you weren't a part of the Podblast then.
Yeah.
We did that over a year ago, Al and I, and there's so much to add to. There's now that there's no sports, but sports is coming back hopefully. But Michael Hopkins on Facebook said, I really like the CBS Radio Mystery Theater, which aired from 1975 to 82, I believe.
Yes, it did.
And Robbie Lewis Brown, a great listener, said, my granddad smoked Winston's in reference to the Winston jingle that you played, Tom.
Yes,
previously in the show.
Of course, and we had a bunch to say about the CBS Radio Theater, and I put copy out there somewhere for one of you guys to cover it. And
You handle it, buddy.
And we really didn't, and it was from 1974 to 1982, and later in the early 2000s, and repeated by the NPR satellite feed, which I did not know, and it was hosted by E.G. Marshall.
E.G. Marshall, who
E.G.
played the
Marshall.
president in Superman 2.
He did it
among other things.
he
In
did it
Creep Show, he's the guy with the roaches in his apartment.
Yes,
That terrible
It's horrible.
segment.
It's a horrible thing. wasn't
Well,
it?
you know, they have a group of actors in the Atlanta area that do radio
Yes,
dramas.
that's correct.
And I think they're based in Marietta.
They are.
But they actually do radio dramas.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, they do.
We got to reach out to them and have them on the show.
And you can go and watch them when they record their shows.
Here's E.G. Marshall.
Join me in the exploration of the rich resources of your own imagination. Modern science tells us we live in a world of waves. Beyond the atom, the electron, the ion, substance itself breaks down into waves. My voice is coming to you now on waves. And that, as they say, is the long and short of it. But what about thoughts? Might not they comprise wave patterns too?
And the funny thing about this is the quality of this recording. I've got some old recordings from the 40s that sound better than this one, and this one's from the 70s. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
It's just weird how they how it works.
I liked him as the president in Superman 2. There's one man on earth who will never kneel before you, Zod. Where is this imbecile? I wish I knew him.
Well, we have to say goodbye.
Yeah, we need to say goodbye.
Oh, Al always wants to rap, even when he's not in charge of the show.
We're over. So
Neither are you.
It's great that you guys and gals have joined us. We certainly appreciate your time, and
we'll be back next week at 3:30 Eastern Daylight Time.
Yeah, and you know what Carl Reiner would say?
Oh boy.
He would say, "Oh boy." Goodbye, everybody. Say goodbye, Al.
Bye, 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 bye.
Say goodbye, Chance.
Chat later. Yeah, put the mics back up. After show.
The mics are
after show time.
I didn't hit Chance this time.
And I didn't get the bell.
Oh,
I didn't get the bell. No, I did good. Look at all these Bit-O-Honeys Al ate during the show.
Wait a minute. I had 1, 2, 3, 4. I had
You're gonna get
no. I had 4 because one fell on the floor.
You're gonna get diabetes.
Oh yeah, of course.
You always mention today. We got to give a shout out to Chili's Lilburn. They did a great job, great service. We kind of had a bad experience there a couple weeks ago.
We went a few weeks ago and the service was terrible
because they were slammed. But we had a good meal, good service, good time.
The food was very good today.
But anyway, I finished eating, and Al turns to me because I had a steak, a ribeye, and he goes, "You're gonna get fat." So that's why I'm teasing him about the Bit-O-Honeys because he always sort of busts my chops whenever I do anything, even if it's not a vice, even if it's just a meal.
You're getting some man boobs there anyway.
That's from a while ago. That's unfortunately, I don't want to say. My mom's probably watching.
I just have to pick at
Hey, everybody in Facebook land, thanks for watching. Shout out to Robbie Lewis Brown. Our friends Danny Cochran, Ryan. I got to get Ryan to call in. He's had some health issues, and he used to be on our show as a guest, and we need to get him back. He was golfing last Sunday.
Oh well, then how bad is he if he's golfing?
He's better. He's got some issues, nothing major, but it's prevented him from being a part of the show. But he'll be back.
Yeah,
he'll be back.
That's good. I'm glad he'll be back.
But if he's golfing, he's got to be doing better.
So next week, do you want to handle game shows again?
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
All right, I'd like to.
I think it's too soon.
It's been over a year, and Tom wasn't a part of it, but that's fine. We'll talk offline about it.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. And we're going to do a show about Alfred Hitchcock films. We've got a show about overrated and underrated movies and TV shows and all things overrated and underrated. And
I like that idea better. But
the week, we can do that. Danny's going to be a part of that one. That'll be August 2nd. But
okay. Let's get some feedback from everyone. See what they want to hear.
Let's see.
Because we know everything. No, we don't.
We have a new comment on Facebook. Let's see. Robbie Lewis Brown, Radio rocks! Exclamation, exclamation, exclamation. Yeah. So, come back and watch the show from the start. After we hit save, it's going to be on YouTube. Another shout out to all of our many channels. Al's Place is on SoundCloud, right? Mm-hmm. And on Stitcher, TuneIn.
Spotify, TuneIn. It's got all
basically, the beautiful thing is you just need to Google Nostalgic Podblast or The Nostalgic Podblast, and we'll try an Alexa test. I think if you say The Nostalgic Podblast, it'll pop up on
Alexa upstairs.
Yeah, we'll try that because that's tied into fistfulofradio.com, which is where we are Saturdays and Sundays, 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And then Radio Tucker, I know we mentioned this earlier, but people have tuned in after
Jason
the show.
Becknell, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you, Jason. So we're on there, and that's presently on Saturday night at 11, but it's going to be weekdays, probably in the evenings.
That's great.
He's going to move us there. So that's good. So that's called Growing. YouTube channel, just look up Nostalgic Podblast, and you'll see videos of every week's show. And we appreciate your support.
Yes, we do. We really do. All right, folks.
Send money.
Yeah, right. Send money to...
We need to set up a GoFundMe page.
Everyone's doing that. Our friend Jamie's doing that. He's doing good. Anyway.
Yeah. Jamie's doing that?
He's had well, he's had Alex Jones call in 3 times to his show.
Yeah.
The Alex Jones confirmed.
Yeah, what a nut job.
Hey, no, we don't want to attack. We don't want to attack anybody. Come on now.
He's been relished to a shortwave radio. You know, you can turn on a shortwave.
That's called censorship, though, Al.
Hear that nut job
What's
over there.
wrong with you, Al?
But he's out there.
God,
Well,
you're
we all-
so negative.
Well, we all
Is your
we
back
all-
flaring up again?
No, well, it's been hurt. But no, he is. I mean, I've listened to him, but he's just.
And Michael says Hitch. So one of our listeners, Michael A. Hopkins, is excited about Hitchcock. So.
Okay. All right, we'll see you
Alfred
next
Hitchcock.
week about 3:30.
Why are you playing the theme now?
On
He's wrapping the after
3:30.
show.
Yeah,
He's ready to log off. And
I see.
Yeah.